Hi everyone, today we're going to take a look at the Cherry Watch, also known as the Cherry Mobile N5. Now this thing has got a stunning display on it. It's an IPS display, so it really does look a lot nicer than some of their older watches, and even the design of it is just much nicer. But you can see that it's basically a clone of the Apple Watch. The design is almost identical. Now the great thing about this is that you can put a SIM card inside and have it as a standalone phone that can make phone calls, send text messages and everything else that you'd expect from a basic cell phone. But what you can also do using Bluetooth is sync it with your Android device or your Apple iPhone. Now let me start by saying that if you sync it with an iPhone, the only thing you can use the watch for is to receive and make phone calls, and it does have a built-in loudspeaker for that, but it can't do anything else. But if you sync it with an Android device, you can get some notifications on here. Now before you get too excited, I should say that the Bluetooth range on this thing is so poor that you basically cannot use this as a companion to your smartphone, because whenever they get more than around, I don't know, maybe 40 centimeters apart, the Bluetooth connection dies and you're not getting alerts anymore, you're not able to make phone calls, etc. But we'll come to that later and you'll be able to see for yourself. So let's start by having a look at what you actually get in the box. You get a manual which has some basic instructions in. It's actually pretty well written and it is pretty useful because there's some stuff you need to know that you might not be able to work out yourself, including where to download the Android app that you need to get notifications on your watch. And then you get a 1 amp charger, branded Cherry Mobile of course, and it does come with a standard micro USB charge cable. Now although it comes with a 1 amp charger, it doesn't actually charge at 1 amp. You can see here that it's only charging at 0.41 amp, which is around 2 watts, and it actually does this weird thing where it takes a bit of power, then it stops, then it pulls some power, then it stops. So it's actually charging at a pretty slow rate, but then it's only got a tiny battery inside, so it doesn't take long to charge. The last thing you get in the box is a headset. Now this is just a regular earphones and microphone, but it terminates in a micro USB connector, which needs to be plugged into the side where you normally charge the watch. Now you can use this for phone calls, you can use it for FM radio, you can use it if you're watching videos on this, pretty much everything you'd expect to use a regular headset for. Now I mentioned earlier that I was quite impressed by the design. Even on my wrist, which is pretty small, it kind of looks okay, so I think they've done a good job at making it look good. The only problem I would say is that this button, it doesn't actually feel very nice and it feels like it's going to break very easily. Sometimes it actually gets stuck at a weird angle and you can't press it. So yeah, this is the worst part. This button here, it looks kind of rubbish and it feels kind of rubbish, but the rest of it actually looks and feels really nice. So let's take a quick look inside before I start showing you how the watch actually works. You can see we've got a 300 milliamp hour battery here, and underneath this you'll find where you can put a micro SD card. I put a 2 gig in there, and then where you can put your SIM card. Now I don't have a SIM card in there right now, but we'll put one in later for testing. So I'll zoom in and we'll start playing with the watch. Okay, so you can see it boots really quickly, which is pretty useful. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it is an IPS display, so pretty much from all angles it's readable, and it really does look nice. When this is on your wrist, it actually looks like quite an expensive watch, even though it's only around 2,000 peso. So let's start by going through the menu system. You can see that you just slide it like this to go between the menu. It is a bit joggy. You can see the screen tearing when I do this. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but to the naked eye you can really see this kind of chopping. And believe it or not, it actually has a built-in camera. It's only a low resolution VGA camera, but it does have a camera. Now again, they put it in the most ridiculous position, because if you have this on your wrist, all you can do is take pictures of yourself, because if you turn it away to take a picture, you won't be able to see the screen or press the button, and most of the time I end up just putting my finger over the camera to try and take the picture. So I don't know what they're thinking, but again, it's a ridiculous place to put the camera. It should be up here facing outwards like that. That would make it a lot more useful. So yeah, it does have a built-in camera, but it's in such a ridiculous position that you can't really make any use of it. And of course it can also record videos, and I'll cut in a sample clip now. Now in the multimedia section, you will of course find a video player. I tried many formats, MP4s, AVIs, several different formats, and the only one I could get to work is 3GP. So you can see that this episode of Family Guy is running absolutely fine. So it's okay for playing 3GP files, but that's about it. You also have a sound recorder. It has a microphone built into the side here, which is also used for phone calls. That works okay. And of course an FM radio. Now the FM radio will only work if you plug in the headset. Now you have the choice of listening from the headphones, or you can turn on the loudspeaker. So the FM radio works as you'd expect, and no problems at all there. And of course there's also a built-in music player which can play MP3 files. And again, that's coming through the loudspeaker. And the loudspeaker is actually pretty good quality, so I really have no complaints about that at all. And of course you have some basic functions like calculator, calendar, pedometer, sleep monitor, which is meant to tell you how well you slept based on whether you're thrashing this around. I don't know how well that works, I haven't tried it, but yeah, I would take it with a grain of salt. And then of course alarm and anti-lost. Now anti-lost is an interesting feature. That's when you sync it with a cell phone. If they become out of range with each other, your watch will start beeping and vibrating to tell you that you've left your phone behind. But again, that doesn't really matter because as soon as they get more than 30 or 40 centimeters apart, the connection's broken anyways. Now another thing to mention is that aside from all the Bluetooth issues I've been having, I actually tried to sync this with a number of phones like this Lenovo, this Cherry Mobile, and another Samsung. And although it was okay syncing for phone calls, it wasn't able to display any alerts or any notifications. So this is the only phone where their application actually works with this watch. So if you are going to buy one of these and you plan to sync it with your cell phone, you better make sure you test it in the store, because this is the only phone out of like 3 or 4 other phones I tried that would actually work with this watch. Now if you want to do more than just receive and make phone calls from this, you have to install this application here, BT Notification, and you'll find the link for that in the Cherry Mobile instruction manual. And what you can do here is set up which notifications should be sent to your phone. So if you click this one here, you can see you can select which applications should send alerts or notifications to your watch. So you could, for example, select Gmail so that anytime you get an email, you'll get a notification here. Now, even these notifications aren't that useful because, for instance, for the Gmail app, all I get on here is the name of the sender. So I know that someone has sent me an email and their name, but I can't see the subject, I can't read the text, all I get is an alert that I have an email. So then I still have to use my phone anyway. So even when you do get the notification application to work, and this is the only phone that I got it to work on, it's not really useful anyway because it only gives you very limited information. So honestly, syncing this with a smartphone, it just doesn't work very well. It's kind of pointless. And let's do a little test of the Bluetooth distance so you can see how easily this thing disconnects. So as a starting point to show how weak the Bluetooth is, let's play some music from our phone onto the watch. So that's now coming out of the watch. And you can see just in that short distance, it's already starting to break up. And that's only around 30 centimeters. So yeah, that's not exactly far away, is it? That's around 30 centimeters and it's already struggling to play the music. Now I know what you might be thinking, well, there's more data being streamed when it's music than just notifications. But the problem is it's not just music. So we're connected now. Let's bring the watch up slowly. Now it doesn't always realize straight away that it's been disconnected. I think it's only when it tries to do some kind of communication with the phone that it realizes, hey, I'm not connected anymore. And there you go, disconnected. And that's not exactly a great distance, that's around 50 centimeters or less. So yeah, basically if this was in your pocket and you raised your hand up above your head, you're going to break the connection. If you put this on the table and then sit in a chair and look at your watch, you're going to break the connection. So as a Bluetooth watch, this thing is absolutely useless. And when it comes to the iPhone, it's even worse. The distance is even worse. Watch what happens. Just give the watch a minute and it will realize, oh hey, I'm not connected anymore. There you go, disconnected. So that's even shorter distance. It's ridiculous. The Bluetooth range on this thing is absolutely appalling. Now let's play make-believe and pretend that the Bluetooth actually works. What could you do with this watch? once it's synced to your cell phone? Well, let me zoom in on the watch and show you. One of the most useful things is to read and send text messages. So any text messages you have in your cell phone, you can also read here on your watch. And the text is nice and easy to read, and even replying isn't too much work. Now in this mode, we're using handwriting, and this just does not work very well at all. That's a H. Okay, got that one. Let's do an E. No, thinks that's a Q. Let's do an L. It got that. Well, yeah, kind of got that. Let's do an O. And got us a C. Let's do a B. We got the B. Let's do an R. Okay, got the R. Let's do a K. Okay, it's actually working quite well. Last time I tested this, it was absolutely awful. That was meant to be a T. Let's try again. Okay, it's not too bad now. It's actually doing better than it was earlier today. Okay, but I mean, it would take so long to write like that, so I wouldn't recommend it. But what you can also do is T9 style, and this is much faster. If I want to type hello, for example. How are you? Oops. So very easy to actually write back to text messages, so very practical, no issues there at all. And if you've got the smallest fingers in the world, you can try and type on a keyboard here. Let me try and type hello. Okay, now I'm making this look easy, but I've had quite a bit of practice with this. It's really difficult, and if you had bigger fingers, there's no way on earth you'd be able to type on this keyboard. So yeah, there is a full keyboard there, but I can't see many people actually using it. Now, aside from text messages, we can also make and receive phone calls on this. Now, unfortunately, I can't dial the number I want to dial because I want to dial *800. But if I try and dial that, it won't actually let me do it. But what I can do is do it on the Android here, and it will send it through to the watch anyway. So this will let you hear the loudspeaker on this watch.
Your number cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
So you can see it's actually pretty loud. So I could actually imagine you sitting there, you know, if you didn't have a headset, you could actually speak into this watch and you'd be able to hear each other quite clearly. Of course, everyone else around you would also be able to hear you, but it would work. You could actually use this to send and receive calls even without a headset plugged in. And you can dial numbers from here if you want. For instance, without the star, I can dial 800 and you'll see that the Android will turn on and start dialing. Now, of course, that's not a valid number, so the call failed. But yeah, you can make and receive phone calls, but of course you do have the Bluetooth problem where your watch has to be so close to your phone that you might as well just use your phone to make the phone call anyway. Now, another interesting or weird feature is that you can launch the camera of your phone. So I press that button and now I've launched the camera and it's streaming the picture here to the watch. Now, I'm not exactly sure why you would want to do that, but it can do it. Now, it can only do it when the phone is unlocked. So if I try now, you'll see it says launch camera has failed. So you have to unlock your phone and then you can launch the camera. So I don't know why you'd want to do that, because you might as well just hold your phone if you're doing that anyway. So kind of a weird one. And like I showed you earlier, you can play music that you've got on your phone. You can play that on your watch. So if you had a headset plugged in here, if you want to listen from the loudspeaker, that works okay. Again, I'm not sure why you'd want to, because they've got to be so close, you might as well just listen from your phone, but it is something that it can do. Okay, so I think that was enough messing around with it as a Bluetooth sync. Let's actually put a SIM card in this and then see how it operates. So like I said earlier, we just take off the back, remove the battery, and then we just slide this piece of metal here, and we can install our SIM card. Now, since this thing can't actually hold a Bluetooth connection, the only way you could actually get any use out of this watch is by putting a SIM card inside it and using it as a standalone phone, and it does actually work quite well at that. So let's start by trying to make a phone call.
We have received reports that some of our valued subscribers in some parts of Metro Manila, Laguna, Batangas, Cavite, Cebu are experiencing difficulty in using data. We apologize for the inconvenience.
So you can see it worked absolutely fine. You could have that on your wrist. It's fairly loud speaker, and you could speak to someone. I did do a test call to my own phone and it was pretty clear, so it does actually work quite well as a phone on your wrist. And of course you can just plug in the headset and make calls like that because it does have a microphone, so it'd be a lot more practical than talking into your wrist. But if you wanted to just walk around with just your watch, you could actually make and receive phone calls on this, and you will be able to hear them and they will be able to hear you, so it does actually do quite well. And of course you can send text messages, so let's try send one. I'll just put nonsense in here and then we'll send it to 1510. Okay, options, send. It's quite annoying how many menus you have to go through to actually send a message, but there you go, it's sent that. We should get a reply any moment. And there you go. We've got a reply saying invalid keyword, but that shows you that you can send and receive text messages on this. So I think that pretty much sums up the Cherry Watch, or the Cherry Mobile N5. On a wrist it looks quite nice. It is a clone of the Apple Watch. The only thing that lets it down is this little button here, but looks wise very fantastic, and the screen quality is absolutely fantastic. The menu system is not great, it's kind of choppy. The camera's pretty poor, you wouldn't really want to use it, and it's in such a poor location that you couldn't use it. The Bluetooth is absolutely horrible, it can't hold a connection with a cell phone. But if you put a SIM card in this and use it to send and receive phone calls, to send and receive text messages, then it does actually work quite well for that. And you can watch videos on the screen. For instance, I showed you Family Guy earlier. It's not great quality, but you could watch it and the speaker makes it okay. So is this worth 2,000 peso? Well, I'd have to say no, because it's basically just a dumb phone on your watch. Yes, it looks nice, but at the end of the day, it can't actually do much. It can't hold a Bluetooth connection, and then it's only compatible with some Android phones. If you want to just do phone calls, yeah, fine, it's compatible with pretty much every phone. But if you want to get notifications, it's only compatible, for me for example, with one phone out of quite a few. So I would not recommend this watch, and I'd say it's probably not worth the money. When I first got this and I put it on my wrist, I was like, wow, this thing's actually pretty good. But then after using it for a few hours and then using it for 2 days, I was like, yeah, this thing is actually kind of junk. So yeah, my recommendation would be to stay away from this. Either wait for them to make a better one or look elsewhere. So if you have any questions, just put them in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.